Welcome to another week of renovofyi's Tip of the Week. Your host as always, Spencer Quo here. This week we're going to look at using FQAs or fully qualified accounts in your report design. A fully qualified account is the entire account string, not just the natural account, but the account and segment and company all in one. These are useful if you want to filter or define your report body on a more detailed level, such as down to the departmental level. So it's a very powerful function, but it can also be the source of some confusion, especially for FRX users who are used to doing it a certain way. And renovofyi is slightly different because we incorporate the company as part of the fully qualified account. So if you're validating reports, sometimes you'll get an error message or in an exception report telling you that your row length doesn't match your organization. So we're going to look at that. So here's an example of a report that's using a fully qualified account to get a breakdown of salaries by department in the body of the report, as opposed to using a reporting tree. So this is the report that we want to be able to get to by using fully qualified accounts in our rows. But oftentimes when you have a newly converted report from FRX, or if you're designing a report from scratch, you'll end up with something like this, with these exceptions which tell you that the number of wildcards in the organization don't match the length of the account number on a particular row. This is a common error that you get, especially when you've converted reports from FRX, because of how things are done slightly different in Renovo. So let's look at why we're getting this message. If we go into this report definition and we look at the organization, what you'll see is the mask and how it's different in renovofyi. You'll see in the mask here we've got a company code at the beginning of our fully qualified account. Here my company is called SOA, so I've got SOA and then the natural account masked and then the other segments following it. So you have to put the company code in front of any fully qualified accounts, and the organization has to match your row. So now let's go into that row definition and pull up the message so we can see it side by side. And our exception says that the number of wildcards in the organization definition does not match the account number length in row 75, 80, 81, and 82. So if we go to row 75 and we look at our fully qualified account GL link, you'll notice it does not have the 3-digit company code in front of it, which is how it's defined in FRX typically. But in Renovo, you have to have the fully qualified account including the company code in front. This is one of the differences, but it allows you to create fully qualified accounts within a row definition across different companies very easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then just enter in the 3-digit SOA here, the name of my company, to correct this report. So now if we compare the row definition GL length to the length of the organizational mask, you'll see that they match. Now this only applies when you're using a row that's using the fully qualified account. On other row GL lengths, you'll see we're just using the 4-digit natural account, and that's good enough for those. But if you're using an FQA, it has to match the org, which usually has a company code in front. So this is a very common issue we run into in support all the time. Now we're going to run this report. Let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to submit the report, give it a quick date, submit it, refresh it, and view the report results. And here you'll be able to see now we've got no exception reports, and there's our fully qualified breakdown. Now just as a side note, this concept applies not just to rows but to columns as well. If you're doing any account filtering on the column, Like here, we'll edit this column and go to filters. If you are doing any account filtering on the column, you also have to include the company code as part of the fully qualified account filter here in the column as well. And if you're converting reports from FRX, this is another thing that you'll have to edit if you're doing account filtering. So that's been using FQAs in your report design. It's a really great function to break your reports down into more details in rows or columns. And it's a really important concept to understand if you get the exception reports that tell you that the wildcards in your organization don't match the length of the accounts in your rows. Typically it's because in the row you also need to put the company code in front of the fully qualified account. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Again, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Come check us out on LinkedIn. Friend us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We've got another round of upcoming webinars coming out, so make sure you sign up for those. And until next time, this is Spencer Kuo with your FYI tip of the week.